Good morning, Chicago. My name's Katy Hogan. I'm back. Yay. And we got a new president. Yay. And everybody who had anything to do with that, I salute you. That includes everybody who took the time to cast a ballot. So I guess that means everybody had something to do with it. In any case, I haven't hosted a show in a while, and I'm really glad to be back on the air. Hopefully next week we'll be in the Heartland, but who knows? You are listening to Live from the Heartland. We're on every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. It's a live show. We try and cover people and ideas and movements and politics that are important to us now, that are raising issues of questions of rights, freedoms, etc., and trying to make it a better place to be. I have two guests this morning. One is my state representative, Harry Osterman, who is familiar to many of you because he's a very much on-the-street state rep, and he'll be with us shortly. And I'm going to start the show today with someone who also might be familiar to some of you, Mr. Chris Drew. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Kathleen. How you doing?
I'm good. It's not as cold as we thought it was out there, is it?
You weren't riding a bike like I was.
You got me there. Chris Drew, the reason I think some of you may have seen him is if any of you have seen the patchwork silk-screened patches that Chris has been making for a while. We sell them in the Heartland General Store, but also you sell them, or you try to, on the street.
Yeah, I try to. Actually, I've been giving them away the last couple of years because it's illegal for me to sell my patches in most of the places that I find would be useful to sell those patches. For example, a loop or just about any place that's great has been put to prohibited districts.
Now, wait a minute. Does that mean that you there are places that you can sell them outside?
Well, yeah, well, technically you have to have a peddler's license to sell anything in the city of Chicago.
Right.
And I don't have a peddler's license. It costs $165 for 2 years to get a peddler's license. So technically it's illegal for me to sell anything anywhere, period, in Chicago. And I don't think that someone should have to come up with $165 in order to speak. And essentially that's what art is speech. And so they're requiring me to get a license to speak.
Well, I'm sympathetic with the over-licensing of everything, given that I have a business, and it seems like every time I go to renew a license, there's a new additional license tacked on in order to do business. But just to get it out of the way, if you had $165, would you buy a peddler's license?
At this point, after researching my speech rights, no, I wouldn't. I did have a peddler's license at one point, and then I began to, the first thing that you have to understand, even though you have a peddler's license, they still, in the peddler's license law, have 3 pages of prohibited districts.
Okay.
And this is the most odious part of the law as it's enforced in the city of Chicago, are the prohibited districts, because they were made for people selling incense and candles, but they're applied to speech, which is the unconstitutional, illegal aspect of the peddler's license, or the most egregious part of it.
Okay, so the peddler's license in its prohibited districts 3 pages also speaks to what you can and cannot say while you're selling?
Well, not what you can and can't say, no. It's not content related. It's just where you can say it.
Oh, where? Okay.
And now I have to clear up something that's very confusing to most people in Chicago. Most people in Chicago, and that includes artists, have been conditioned to believe that as soon as you put a price on your art, that it falls under the category of business instead of the category of speech, and this is categorically wrong. This is wrong. Every court case on this issue says again and again that there's no difference whether you give your speech away or you sell it. And here's the reason why. If you are, the First Amendment says you shall make no law prohibiting essentially your speech rights.
Free speech, right.
So there's a lot of ways to prohibit your speech. For example, if you can't make a living off your speech, well, you're prohibited for a good part of your life from speaking because you have to go out there and work another job. And this is precisely why there's no difference between giving your speech away and selling it, because most of us, and that includes the Tribune, cannot afford to give their speech away, or they won't be able to speak as often. So if the Tribune is not rich enough to give their speech away, I'm not likely to be rich enough to give my speech away. I should have the same rights.
So let's go back in time a little bit. And you came from Detroit, you told me?
Well, I was born in Detroit. I left that city when I was 1 year old.
Oh, well, then you barely came from Detroit. So but you did some other things. And where did you spend most of your time before you came to Chicago then?
Minneapolis, St. Paul. I was raised from 6th grade up in
the town we're hoping does not cheat on the election in the next couple of weeks.
Well, here in America, we have one of the saddest electoral systems in the democratic world. We got machines that can't be trusted because you can't.
Don't go there, Chris, because I'm really familiar with those machines, and if we have a talk on the machines, we'll never get to the art.
It'll be an hour. Yeah.
So you came to Chicago, as you put it, right after we elected Harold Washington, which was, for me, a happy time in Chicago,
yes,
1984.
I was very excited to come to Chicago at that time.
Yeah.
And because, Harold Washington was very sympathetic to community artists and did a lot of things. For example, something your listeners probably don't know about is the Chicago Cultural Plan, which Daley made a point of throwing out. He threw every copy of it out at the Chicago Cultural Center just after he came into office. The Chicago Cultural Plan, however, is up on our website at art-teez.org. You can find it there.
Art/TEEZ?
art-teez.org. Yeah, the cultural plan. Well, that's a story for another session
time
as well. But
I'm definitely going to check that out.
Democratic process of culture in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. So you're basically talking. Your fight now, or your struggle, is to free speech,
right?
And along with that, sort of artists' speech rights specifically.
Right.
Artists' speech rights, putting that off to the side, are they different? My free speech rights?
Absolutely not. They're the same rights.
Right.
We're actually fighting for everybody's right to speak and be paid to speak in the city of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I might mention, what we really want to do is create art scenes, because there's no art scenes in Chicago based upon the fact that these laws prevent that from happening. For art scenes to happen, you have to have the ability to sell your art, because that's what makes an art scene possible. It's artists coming together to sell their artwork.
So, what about all the many and varied art festivals all summer long?
all those rip-offs of artists where you got to pay $200 or $300 to rent the public sidewalk from yourself.
Okay, I think I got the picture
and
that
most
one.
artists can't make any living in that, and
That's
so
true.
they don't exist in those places. You can't meet the majority of artists in Chicago at the art fairs. You meet people from outside who've made a living of doing just that, traveling from art fair to art fair around the country.